Hello, everyone. Glad you're here. Oh, wow. Look at that nice tiara over there. That looks awesome. So glad you came back to hear what happens in our story today. There's lots of exciting things going to happen. We're going to actually read another 4 of our little mini chapters today. And I bet you can't even imagine what's going to happen in our story today. It's it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to wait just a little bit to get a few more friends on. I see we got some people over here with headphones on and some people on iPads. And oh yeah, that looks like a lot of fun. Some of you are having some fun over there. I'm having fun today. I'm here in my office, which is there aren't many people here at school right now, as you might imagine, because of the remote learning. But a couple teachers were here today. But at this time of day, when it starts to get dark outside, most people are home. But I'm excited to be reading Roald Dahl's fantastic Mr. Fox. I'm going to just take a look at the screens. If you have your camera on, I'd love, if you've ever seen a fox in real life, would you raise your hand if you've ever seen a fox in real life? Oh, nice. How about a rabbit? Anyone seen a rabbit in real life? Okay, how about a weasel? Anyone seen a weasel? Or how about a badger? Anyone seen a badger? Well, believe it or not, all those animals are going to be in our story today. So I want you to listen and see if you can hear about a weasel and a rabbit and a badger. Oh, there's a rabbit right there on the screen. I see one, a pink one. Nice, excellent. Well, I think it's time to get started. Roald Dahl's The Fantastic Mr. Fox. Remember, last time we were together, all the farmers surrounded the huge hole that they had dug with their machines with the claws. And they were sitting there, and they also got all of their farmers from back in the farms to come and surround the perimeter, the outside of the hole, so that the fox would be stuck in his hole no matter what. In fact, those farmers thought they were pretty clever, but I think you're going to find out that the fantastic Mr. Fox is even a bit more clever. Here is chapter 9. Mr. Fox has a plan. For 3 days and 3 nights, this waiting game went on. How long can a fox go without food or water? Bogus asked on the 3rd day. Oh, not much longer now, Bean told him. He'll make a run for it soon. He'll have to. Bean was right. Down in the tunnel, the foxes were slowly but surely starving to death. Oh, if only we could have a tiny sip of water, said one of the small foxes. Oh, Dad, can you do something? Couldn't we make a dash for it, Dad? We'd have a little bit of a chance, wouldn't we? No chance at all, snapped Mrs. Fox. I refuse to let you go up there and face those guns. Oh, I'd sooner you stay down here and die in peace. Mr. Fox had not spoken for a long time. He had been sitting quite still, his eyes closed, not even hearing what the others were saying. Mrs. Fox knew that he was trying desperately to think of a way out. And now, as she looked at him, she saw him stir herself and get slowly to his feet. He looked back at his wife. There was a little spark of excitement dancing in his eyes. What is it, darling? Said Mrs. Fox quickly. I've just had a bit of an idea, said Mr. Fox carefully. What? They cried. Oh, Dad, what is it? Come on, said Mrs. Fox. Tell us quickly. Well, said Mr. Fox. Then he stopped and sighed and sadly shook his head. He sat down again. Oh, it's no good, he said. It won't work after all. Why not, Dad? Because it means more digging, and we aren't as strong enough for that after 3 days and nights without food. Oh, yes, we are, cried the small foxes, jumping up and running to their father. We can do it. You'll see, we can do it. So can you. Mr. Fox looked at the 4 small foxes, and he smiled. What fine children I have, he thought. They are starving to death, and they haven't had a drink for 3 days, but they are still undefeated. I must not let them down. I suppose we could give it a try, he said. Let's go, Dad. Tell us what you want us to do. Slowly, Mrs. Fox got to her feet. She was suffering more than any of them from the lack of food and water, and she was very weak. I'm so sorry, she said, but I don't think I'm going to be much of help. You stay right where you are, my darling, said Mrs. Fox. We can handle this by ourselves. And now we move on to chapter 10, Boggis's Chicken House, number 1. This time we must go in a very special direction, said Mr. Fox, pointing sideways and downwards. So he and his 4 children started to dig once again. The work was much more slowly now, yet they kept at it with great courage, and little by little the tunnel began to grow. Dad, I wish you would tell us where we are going, said one of the children. Oh, I dare not do that, said Mr. Fox, because this place I am hoping to get you to is so marvelous that if I described it to you now, you would go crazy with excitement. And then, if we failed to get there, which is very possible, you would die of disappointment. I don't want to raise your hopes too much, my darlings. For a long time, they kept on digging. For how long, they did not know, because there was no days and no nights down in the murky tunnel. But at last, Mr. Fox gave the order to stop. I think, he said, I think we had better take a peep upstairs now and see where we are. I know where I want to be, but I can't possibly be sure that we're anywhere near it. Slowly, wearily, the foxes began to slope the tunnel towards the surface. Up and up it went until suddenly they came to something hard above their heads, and they couldn't go up any further. Mr. Fox reached up to examine this hard thing. It's wood, he whispered. Wooden planks. What does that mean, Dad? It means, unless I'm very much mistaken, that we are right underneath somebody's house, whispered Mr. Fox. Be very quiet while I take a peek. Carefully, Mr. Fox began pushing up one of the floorboards. The board creaked most terribly, and they all ducked down, waiting for something awful to happen. Nothing did. So Mr. Fox pushed up a second board, and then very, very cautiously, he poked his head up through the gap, and he let out a shriek of excitement. I've done it, he yelled. I've done it the first time. I've done it. He pulled himself up to the gap in the floor and started prancing and dancing with joy. Come on up, he sang out. Come up and see where you are, my darlings. What a sight for a hungry fox. Hallelujah, hooray, hooray. The 4 small foxes scrambled up out of the tunnel, and what a fantastic sight it was now that met their eyes. They were in a huge shed, and the whole place was teeming with chickens. Oh, there were white chickens and brown chickens and black chickens by the thousand. Boggis's Chicken House number 1, cried Mr. Fox. It's exactly what I was aiming at. I hit it slap in the middle first time. Isn't that fantastic? And, if I may so, rather clever. The small foxes went wild with excitement. They started running around in all directions, chasing the stupid chickens. Wait, ordered Mr. Fox. Don't lose your heads. Stand back. Calm down. Let's do this properly. First of all, everyone have a drink of water. They all ran over to the chicken's drinking trough and lapped up the lovely, cool water. Then Mr. Fox chose 3 of the plumpest hens, and with a clever flick of his jaws, he killed them instantly. Back to the tunnel, he ordered. Come on! No fooling around! The quicker you move, the quicker you shall have something to eat. One after another, they climbed down through the hole in the floor, and soon they are all standing once again in the dark tunnel. Mr. Fox reached up and pulled the floorboards back into place. He did this with great care. He did it so that no one could tell they had ever been moved. My son, he said, giving the 3 plump hens to the biggest of his 4 small children, run back with these to your mother. Tell her to prepare a feast. Tell her the rest of us will be along in a jiffy as soon as we've made a few other little arrangements. And now we're on to chapter 11, a surprise from Mrs. Fox. The small fox ran back along the tunnel as fast as he could, carrying the 3 plump hens. He was exploding for joy. Just wait, just wait, he kept thinking. Just wait till Mummy sees these. He had a long way to run, but he never stopped once on the way, and he came bursting into Mrs. Fox. Mummy, he cried, out of breath. Look, Mummy, look, wake up and see what I've brought you. Mrs. Fox, who was weaker than ever now from lack of food, opened one eye and looked at the hens. I'm dreaming, she murmured, and closed the eyes again. You're not dreaming, Mummy. They're real chickens. We're saved. We're not going to starve. Mrs. Fox opened both eyes and sat up quickly. But my dear child, she cried, where on earth did Bogus's chicken house number 1, sputtered the small fox. We tunneled right up under the floor, and you've never seen so many big fat hens in your life. And Dad said to prepare a feast. They'll be back soon. The sight of food seemed to give new strength to Mrs. Fox. A feast it shall be, she said, standing up. Oh, what a fantastic fox your father is. Hurry up, child, and start plucking those chickens. Far away down in the tunnel, the fantastic Mr. Fox was saying, now for the next bit, my darlings. This one will be easy as pie. All we have to dig is another little tunnel from here to there. To where, Dad? Don't ask so many questions. Start digging. And now here's our last chapter for today. It's called Badger. Mr. Fox and the 3 remaining small foxes dug fast and straight. They were all too excited now to feel tired or hungry. They knew they were going to have a whacking great feast before long, and the fact that it was none other than Bogus's chickens they were going to eat made them chortle with laughter every time they thought of it. It was lovely to realize that while the fat farmer was sitting up there on the hill, waiting for them to starve, he was also giving them their dinner without knowing it. Keep digging, said Mr. Fox. It's not much further. Then all of a sudden, a deep voice above their heads said, Who goes there? The foxes jumped. They looked up quickly, and they saw peeking through a small hole in the roof of the tunnel a small, long, black, pointed, furry face. Badger! Cried Mr. Fox. Foxy! Cried Badger. My goodness me, I'm glad I found someone at last. I've been digging around in circles for 3 days and nights, and I haven't the foggiest idea where I am. Badger made the hole in the ceiling bigger and dropped down beside the foxes. A small badger, his son, dropped down after him. Haven't you heard what's happening on the hill? Badger said excitedly. It's chaos. Half the wood has disappeared, and there are men with guns all over the countryside. Oh, none of us can get out, even at night. We're all starving to death. Who is we? asked Mr. Fox. Oh, all of us figures. That's me and Rabbit and our wives and children, even Weasel, who can usually sneak out of the tightest spots, is right now hiding down in my hole with Mrs. Weasel and 6 little weasels. What on earth are we going to do, Foxy? I think we're finished. Mr. Fox looked at his 3 children and he smiled. The children smiled back at him, sharing his secret. Oh, my dear old Badger, he said, this mess you're in is all my fault. Oh, I know it's your fault, said Badger furiously. And the farmers are not going to give up until they've got you. Unfortunately, that means us as well. It means everyone on the hill. Badger sat down and put a paw around his small son. We're done for, he said softly. My poor wife up there is so weak, she can't dig another yard. Nor can mine, said Mr. Fox, and yet at this very minute she is preparing for me and my children the most delicious feast of plump, juicy chickens. Stop, cried Badger. Don't tease me. I can't stand it. Oh, it's true, cried the small foxes. Dad's not teasing. We've got chickens galore. And because everything is entirely my fault, said Mr. Fox, I invite you to share the feast. I invite everyone to share it. You and Mole and Rabbit and Weasel and all your wives and children. There'll be plenty to go around, I can assure you. You mean it? Cried Badger. You really mean it? Mr. Fox pushed his face close to Badger's and whispered darkly, do you know where we've been? Where? Right inside Boggis's chicken house, number 1. No, yes, but that is nothing to where we are going now. You have come just at the right moment, my dear Badger. You can help us dig. And in the meanwhile, your small son can run back to Mrs. Badger and all the others and spread the good news. Mr. Fox turned to Small Badger and said, tell them they are invited to a fox's feast. Then bring them all down here and follow this tunnel back until you find my home. Oh, yes, Mr. Fox, said the Small Badger. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Oh, thank you, sir. And he scrambled quickly back through the hole to the roof, on top of the roof, and he disappeared. And my friends, that is where we're going to end the story for today. I wonder where they're going next. I bet you have some guesses.
Mr. Hancock.
Who's there? Yes.
Do you know today is actually Johnny's birthday and I got this?
It's your birthday?
No, Johnny's.
Johnny's birthday, and you got a present for Johnny's birthday? How exciting. It is not my birthday today, but my birthday was last month. And I wonder when Mr. Fox's birthday is. We'll have to figure that out. Boys and girls, you were great listeners today. Thank you so much. Our next story time is actually next week. We're going to have Monday and Tuesday next week, and then we'll have the book finished. And by the way, I have a special surprise for anyone who finishes to the end of the book. There's a special song that I'm going to play for you about the fantastic Mr. Fox. I think you're going to love it, but you have to wait to the end. So come back, okay, and hear what happens next to the fox and his kids and Mrs. Fox and Badger and all the animals of the forest, okay? Hope you have an awesome day. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.